Okay, it's 9 a.m. I'll call this meeting of the Price County Law Enforcement Committee to order. Good morning, everybody. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Good morning. Joe Baratka. Robert Kopish. Larry Palachuk.
Here.
Patricia Stephen. Here. And Dennis Wortko.
Here.
Thank you.
Items for discussion and possible action. Public comment and communications. There isn't no one here for public comment. Anybody online to unmute yourself? It's *6. Okay, moving on. Communications. Any committee member have anything for communications? Brian or Bob? Okay, what's your pleasure on the meeting minutes of February 5th?
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's by Joe, seconded by Dewey. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Coroner Department report. Anything on that, Brian? Or Nick?
Yeah, the only update I have is we have been working with the state office to do the recruitment, or they were doing the recruitment, but they've kept us in the loop. There was a public notice on the 23rd of February. It closed March 6th, which was last Friday. I have not heard any updates on how many individuals actually applied. We did have, I believe, 4 individuals reach out to us to ask us about the position, either the sheriff or myself. So we don't know how long that takes is for them to interview and appoint. So we haven't heard anything. In the meantime, is it Suzanne or Sue Timmers is our lead, the person who's been doing the coroner majority of the roles. So they did receive additional compensation during that time besides their normal death certificate pay. But that'll be only until the new appointment happens.
Yeah, Price County only has 2 deputy coroners. And Nick is, I guess, sounding off it correctly, is that I saw the advertisement. It did indicate a deadline of Friday the 6th. I did have a number of people contact me and inquire. I directed them to the appropriate sites that they would need. And then at some point after this last Friday, I'm assuming the governor will at some point make some determination based on selection through an application process. I have been collecting whatever paperwork has been coming in. I'm assuming the county clerk's getting some paperwork. I've been getting some. I still have to reach out to Jim's family, the coroner's family, and obtain what boxes that we need to then transfer to the new coroner. With this being an election year, this would just only fill the term. So again, starting in April will be the process for the election process for the coroner's position for 27 to 30. So.
Well, until that point in time, we're covered, so we don't really have to worry about anything. Any further discussion on the coroner's report? I'll accept that as presented. District Attorney, have anything on that, Nick?
No updates on that. I think it was like 2 months ago, a month and a half ago. I know there was an interested party. The biggest thing is, even after the interviews happen, the governor's office won't announce anything until they've actually established residency for 30 days. So even if they had one, they may not tell anybody until that person has established their residency. But I have not. I don't even know if that person ended up interviewing.
Okay. Anybody on the committee have anything on that for Nick, or any questions? I'll accept that report. Clerk of Circuit Court. Anything, Nick?
No, fully staffed, keeping things going upstairs.
Cool. I'll accept that report. Here comes the biggie. Sheriff's Office Department Report.
Okay, I guess going through the reason we believe that, or I believe we need to have a meeting would be in discussion of the radio project. I know it's on the list for equipment. If you want me to go down the list, but I guess the big issue is the question that we're dealing with obviously is radios and communication in the county. We've waited 2 years now thinking that we would move ahead with a project or try to get something through another means. I think Nick and I and Bob have been, Chief Deputy, have been trying to work and trying to figure out a mechanism to get us the equipment, get us the things that we need. We're still wavering in a sense after Nick and I spoke already this morning. So there's a concern dealing with bug tussle and something like that. But at some point, we have to make a decision as to what we're going to do. Nick and I have talked about this. Do we try to do one project or do we do smaller projects through the course of the next 3, 4, 5 years and trying to cover that way and just start out with what is urgent right now coming into 26 or 27?
Yeah, so backing up a little bit, we've met, so there's two kind of things going on. We have the bug tussle issue, which was the towers, and then we've also been working with Motorola on radios, body cameras, all the system that kind of upgrades where we're at, but radios is initially the big part of it. So we originally were talking to Motorola. We've had about 4 or 5 sit down meetings with them. They ultimately came back and said, even with the towers, so bug tussle gives you a free location, you'll still have to put all the equipment. We're looking at $4 to $5 million, and that includes the radios and all the equipment. When we heard that, and you gotta love salespeople. This is what we need, right? They're telling us what we need. Bobby and Brian and I kind of met separately. TJ was involved in all this, but we met separately and said, okay, this project's become something more than we have the expertise for. So what we're kind of coming today about with the radio project is we would like to go out for an RFP to hire a consultant to say, what do we actually need? So again, not that the salesperson's been great. He's easy to work with, gives you a lot of great information, but is that really what the future of our county needs, or is that what their product can give you? So with the RFP process, I've started working up kind of the thought process of what would go, what's our deliverables? So if we go out for an RFP, what do we want from somebody that's going to be our partner in this project? And so the things that we would request are, okay, if we left the 3 towers we currently use, what kind of equipment would work, or does it work? If we do get towers from bug tussle and that's what you go down that path. Okay, now we have 6 locations or 8 locations for towers. What kind of equipment and coverage does that look like? What products should we look at? I know there's a big push in the state to look at dispatch centers and working together. Well, is that something that we don't want to buy Motorola and every county around us uses Kenwood? So one of the deliverables would be, what are the counties surrounding us doing? What 911 systems are doing? What is the state doing? Is there a standardized system? Is there grants? So they would also help us with all the grant projects. They would give us maps. And so we looked at, was it Sawyer County? I think I sent you guys, but Sawyer County kind of went through this and said, okay, if we made our own towers, what does it cost? What does it cost if we have towers already, and what equipment? And then you get this nice report that says, here's your current coverage. Here's the coverage you'd get with certain products. Do you really need GPS tracking on your radios to tell you where it is? One of the areas I saw that's really important is currently our radios are not the best indoors. Is there a product do we have enough places like the hospital, or when we had a big mills here or large factories, is there enough need for radios that have a different technology in them to work inside a building? So it's become a bigger beast than any of us have the expertise for. Now, could we handle it and just go through it? Yeah, we're going to get a product, we're going to get something, but does that ultimately cost you $1 million more than it should because you bought really, really, really nice buttons on stuff. So that's kind of the request, is coming here and saying, do we want to look at an RFP process to hire a consultant to be our day-to-day, not day-to-day, but our point person on this, to be with us when we meet with companies, to give us really the project. And then like the sheriff brought up is, do we need to do $4 million today? Or do we do $1 million in radio this year, and then we do upgrade in our towers year 2 or year 3, and in year 5 we do our comm center or our 911 center equipment. So there's a lot to this, and again, our expertise has been passed real quick on the size of the project.
If we signed a contract this afternoon to get going on this, what are we out? A year and a half, 2 years for completion?
Yeah, I would say
Something like that.
yes. Our goal would be by 2028 to have everything in place and done. So I would say that if you said today, Nick, work with the sheriff's department, let's work on an RFP. We're looking at a month to make sure we get that together. Then you guys would approve the RFP. You wouldn't have to, but if I would like to bring it, because it's going to be a large RFP. It's not going to be somebody pays, you're not paying $5,000 to have somebody help you with something like this. So we'd come forward, say, this is kind of what the deliverables. So you guys would kind of make sure we're on the right track for deliverables. So that's another month out. And then you'd recruit for somebody. So you're looking for a month there. Then they probably get 90 days to do the project of looking into it. So we're looking at probably that late fall to say, here's what we recommend for your project, which lines up okay with budget. Like, so if there is something we want to move on sooner, we would be lining up with that budget time. But then really ultimately 27, 28 would be our project creation and build. So it would be 2 years.
This deal with Bug Tussle has held us up 2 years. I think we need to jump in with both feet in this and get rocking and rolling, and drop Bug Tussle. Because I think in the end, Bug Tussle's going to have the money and Price County's going to have the experience. And our emergency radio system just simply can't wait that long.
And I'm not saying we're ready to drop Bug Tussle yet. We have a couple meetings lined up here in the next week, just to see where they're at, but it may be an option, right? So part of this consultant would say, is Bug Tussle's locations and the free worth it? Or do we need to make our own? Or do we, Richland County, they made 8 of their own towers for emergency services, but that's all that's on them. They're not making money. They're just maintaining towers. So
are there things we can do? Because Bug Tussle towers are only one component. Can we start with whatever else where Bug Tussle isn't involved?
Yeah.
And then, phase it in rather than one big.
Yeah. So the equipment's a big part of it. So we could work on like the radios and the body cameras and stuff that would go with this system, and get some of that started. So yeah, that's where the phasing would come in. If we knew that there was motion with the towers, if there's not motion, maybe we work with the 3 towers we have with bigger equipment. I don't know. I think
Joe's got a question on.
That's all right. I'm used to it. No, just kidding. So I agree with Larry. I think we need to move forward rather than wait. But my question is, do we have funding in this year's budget for that? Or is this something that's got to go to it? Do we have the ability to say, go ahead, go through with this? Or does this have to go to executive first? Just so we get the ducks in a row that we're not overstepping some here.
So what I would recommend is if you guys approve this, we'd go to executive and say, hey, they're looking to do this RFP. Let's get this out there, see what the price is. Where I would recommend the funding come from is one of 2 spots. We have our capital improvement funds, which this is a capital improvement project, or we are receiving funds from Bug Tussle, whether they do the project or not. Right now, every dollar that's sitting there in principal, we get 40 basis points. So we've received, I believe, 3 payments of $35,000 or $40,000. So we've been using that for lawyers and things like that with the project, but you could, executive or the board, it would be a resolution. The board would allocate that money towards the project to say, start looking at what our options are. Otherwise capital improvement. So there's options for funding.
Okay.
There'd be a process though. It wouldn't
Yeah.
just be like, let's go do it.
So I would, if somebody else has got something to say first, but I would make a motion that we forward this on to executive to start the process for an RFP for a consultant.
Patty, you have a question?
I'll second the motion, then.
Motion's been made and seconded.
Okay,
Any further discussion? Patty?
I just heard from the previous board meeting, weren't we being ghosted? I know you just said they had you have future meetings planned. In the past, that you were sending emails and they weren't answering, and phone calls and they weren't.
Yep.
I would be in favor of moving forward with the new.
Yeah. And we're not, this is two different issues, right? So we have the bug tussle issue that we've been struggling to communicate with, and this is not a localized issue. I got together with 16 counties the other day where we have a little work group going that we're all struggling. We're all working on stuff. I've been working with the chair and vice chair, and we're meeting with their team, Bug Tussle's team. So yes, Bug Tussle is a separate part of this, but the only reason it's part of it is because they may be the towers we locate on. If they're not the towers, and this is what the consultant would work with, is that tower location ideal? And we want to make sure, and they'll build a project based on that. They'll also be building a project based on, we no longer work with Bug Tussle. They're not here. There's no option for those towers. So we're going to, like Larry said, we need to keep moving forward, but we also should keep our options open. I don't want to close the door on Bug Tussle yet. That's not where we're at, but there may be a time we have to move forward elsewhere, and keep moving.
Dennis, what are your feelings on it?
Well, I think it's supposed to be time to drop Bug Tussle, but I'll do with the recommendation of the law on that.
And that may come out of stuff, right? With the Bug Tussle thing may end. I mean, that's why we're meeting with the chair and vice chair. And I have put it in the universe to Bug Tussle that, hey, you haven't touched our 15 million. Maybe it's not time to touch it. Maybe it's time to close that project. Come back when you guys figure out your whole thing that you're doing in our county and request, because they're trying to go for a number 3. So they have Bug Tussle 1, Bug Tussle 2 is which we're part of. They're trying to go for Bug Tussle 3. But we could close out Bug Tussle 2, and then if they're still looking to do towers and all that here, because one of the products we've been looking at really depends on cell phone service as I wouldn't say it's the first, but it's the second option on the equipment. Well, Bug Tussle would have been huge for that, right? You have 8 to 12 towers that have a better cell phone coverage. Well, without it, the consultant would hopefully say, you're spending a lot of money for a product that only works in the city limits. It will work outside, but the secondary product.
Bob?
Yeah, I think this issue is way more important than what Bug Tussle is doing for us. I think I've thought this way all along, that eventually we're going to be hardwired on everything with fiber and everything, and this stuff through the air is not going to be the answer, but whatever. So putting a priority on what we're talking about, when we had the highway issues and we worked on this and we needed to fix roads, we came up with a solution. Ended up being debt, and we've been using the debt and everything very effectively. I think we've got that here. I think we may have to balance a little bit, what are our priorities, and maybe if we're well ahead on the highways, maybe there's a trade-off for a period of time, and maybe we might have to raise the debt level a little bit. But I think there's a solution here, but we got to get to the point where we know where we're going and what we want to do. So I've never been an advocate of Bug Tussle, but I kept my mouth shut at the board meeting, but I had to say something. Thank you.
Yeah. And I would, again, Bug Tussle is not this project. We're talking radios. We're talking right now, Motorola, Kenwood, there's products. I get how it's being wrapped in because that's a location for our radios, but it's not this project. That's not, the consultant's not going to come in and go, Bug Tussle's good, Bug Tussle's bad. They're just going to go, do you have towers? Don't you have towers? So I'm trying to separate it here as much as possible.
If we have the towers, maybe we can rent the Bug Tussle.
Bayfield tried that. They built a bunch of their own towers, and it's not an easy, you have to have partners before you build them to be like, hey, AT&T, Verizon, Bugtails, whoever, do you want this tower? Not, hey, I have a tower, do you want it? And so partnerships are important there, and none of us work in an area of lobbying for partnerships.
What scares me about all of this is when we have to go to eBay to look for used parts to keep our equipment running. That's scary when you get to the emergency side. Is there any further discussion? If not, Meredith, would you repeat the motion, please?
I had motion Baratka, second Kopish, to forward this on to executive to start the process for an RFP for a consultant.
And it's really just the funding side of it. The RFP is done between like we'll keep you in the loop, but yeah, you're good.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Let's get going.
Thanks for the work.
We talked about the ordinance. There's a need for language. We'll look in April. That's when we're going to discuss the ordinance. As far as continuing on with that process, just wanted to touch base that there is things in motion for that for the April meeting. Staffing issues. We conducted interviews on the 24th of February. We were looking at least 2 people for the road. We still have that one opening from October when Dan Lambert decided to help his family out and resign and move away. We do have Dave Westnick is considering retirement in June. So that would be our second opening. So currently we're looking at 2 people right now. One has completed background and moving forward with HR towards employment, but that individual will not be able to start until May. The second person is now just starting out in background. Joe Janik is completing the background on the second person. We do have one part-time that Danielle is doing background for jail dispatch upstairs. So the process is still moving forward, always looking for part-timers. And then at some point later this year, we'll have another retirement possibly in November. The humane officer, and just going down through some of that, what we have now currently through January 1st through March 6th, the animal control instances out of 434 law instances at the sheriff's office, Mindy's handled 42 of them. That's 9% of that. We're dealing with 13 animal, 10 animal bites, 4 animal welfare, 1 nuisance animal, and then 14 lost and found animals. So she's been busy dealing with animals still even through the winter.
Brian, do you have any update like how Catkins is doing? I know we see a lot, like Taylor County is really having issues with animals.
I think for a period of time, I believe Catkins closed the door to cats.
That's the only thing I heard
Yeah.
was cats, but either
Dogs?
way, they've been a great partner. We're working with them. The only reason I bring it up is you're seeing it a lot in the newspapers and in the news around us. I know Taylor County is really struggling. It was either Washburn or Sawyer County, same thing. They're closing their door and they just have an overwhelming number of animals. So the partnership has been great with Catkins. We need to remind everybody that they're a great partner.
This question, what's happening with their new building?
That's a Catkins
I
thing.
keep looking for progress on a new building. I don't see much happening. Does anybody know where they're at?
We've broken ground on it,
Yeah.
and as soon as the postings are off the roads, Dennis Utari wants to get started on it.
Okay, so they're ready to go once they can. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, so going through the first part of the year, as I indicated, the sheriff's office has 434 law instances. Total bookings from January to March so far, 72 bookings in the jail. Currently, dispatch is handling incoming and outgoing calls. We have 14,463 minutes, or calls, I'm sorry, calls, for a total of 67,215 minutes. Average call duration is now 5.3 minutes. What lately has been happening, and I wanted to get some numbers to you folks, is If you're aware, we do records requests that come in through most governmental agencies. The sheriff's office is no different than the county clerk. In 2023, we had 170 records requests. 2024, we had 196. In 2025, we had 323. Total time for the records request was 7,975 minutes. So again, Annie is the one that handles records requests, the majority of them. That's 6.3% of her time was just handling records requests coming in. So we see a substantial increase. Same with civil process. 2023, we had 312. 2024, we had 321. 2025, we had 385. Civil process, again, is not just serving summons or complaints. It's also handling writs of replevin, writs of assistance, evictions, also taking into consideration when we have a judgment and there's a judgment declared, where the chief deputy, we just recently had the one I discussed where we were up in Park Falls area and we were seizing property for a judgment. And then we were storing it for sale at some point. At that time, the sale had been canceled based on an injunction through the courts.
What was the reason for that, Brian?
The person in the statutes, you have 18 exemptions under a judgment that you can claim. And at that point, his attorney did make a claim on a couple of the items, and then the courts then held off and canceled that. And so the property has to be returned. The bill has been submitted to the defendant, respondent, and the plaintiff. And so the bill has been submitted for our time and storage and chief deputy's time, most of it and stuff like that. So we can go after the money from either the sale, when the sale is completed, take the money off the top, or we take it and send them and submit like an invoice or a bill to them.
What do you think the chances of us getting paid are? Slim and not at all?
So the bill is around $8,000. So that's time and storage fees and things that, and we did have an overfill. We had to use the city of Phillips impound lot. So we received a bill from Mike at the PD.
So is the equipment still in our custody?
Not. We had started the process using Bennett Auction to.
I saw it on there.
And we were going through the process of selling that. And we are still using, I believe, Bennett Auction. We did get some stuff out of the evidence room. We were clearing out some things that were court order release and disposal. So it gives you some idea of the bookings a little bit, also the civil process part of it, because the sheriff is required to attend to the court and also serve all summons and paperwork that is required by the court. Other than that, does anyone have any other questions moving forward?
Mr. Turk, may I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just curious, these requests for records, is it a broad base of individuals or is there a
No,
select
it's-
few?
It's generally a handful that seem to want to have records, and you can't ask why, which is it's irrelevant to ask them why. It's their business. We don't need to. And realistically, and I have gotten this where it's an email that is like almost a nonsensical email that we send the records to. If they don't have to identify themselves generally either. If they just want an email, and we fulfill it the best we can. If we have a record, we send it. If we don't, we advise them. Records is also kind of a throw up in the air, throw a dart against the wall. It's the balance test. What's best for the needs of the community and releasing the information.
To reword the question, I think there's a difference. What we're seeing is there's, I would say, three categories. One where it's like a person got into an accident, needs it for their insurance. So that's like a record, right?
Yeah.
So that just
Insurance
happens.
companies.
Yep. We have lawyers who are working on a project, and then we have the random, more what you're talking about, where it's probably more of a select couple that are just saying, I want a whole bunch of information on X. It may not even pertain to them personally.
So in my office, we get the requests from the YouTubers, the channels that try to ask for body cam or things like that and generate a channel. and generate, I guess, kind of like some narrative that they want to present to their subscribers, I guess. But there's state law that allows us to, if we have to redact, we get to redact it and we can charge them for the time. That's why you see such a, I guess, a narrow focused idea on minutes and times and what we have. Because if there's some way of generating, I guess, not generating money, but it's to offset the public, taxpayers. So we'll send paperwork to the individual that, they understand if you're doing it for profit, well, it's going to cost you. And then we then cover our costs as a county, as employees. So Annie will sometimes have to sit there for hours on end, watch video, which is getting ridiculous, but yeah, because we do have to blur either juveniles or have to black out some because there's kids or names or date of births or DL numbers, whatever, but we have to sit and sift through it.
Are you done with the
Like you
sheriff's
said, if
report?
it's, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
if it's YouTube or profit type deal, we do bill them that.
Yeah, if Annie is sitting, they understand that, that's what we send them the document. If it's a lawyer, we send them using Bryce's information. We've gotten Corporation Counsel kind of involved, got a document we send to the lawyer. They use the video in court. They won't use it for anything other than what court proceedings they have. So we can protect the integrity of, people's privacy if there's like children or medical issues, things of that nature.
Done. Anybody have any questions or comments on the sheriff's report?
Come on, Robert, you're always good for something. I mean, the audience is waiting for you, Bob. The audience is listening or watching you. You got to earn your money
Are you done with your report?
if that's what you wish.
No, well, you got a rec officer and jail update.
Oh, I gave you jail sort of on the booking. As far as staffing, staffing is doing well upstairs. We have some part-timers. We're moving forward with, like I said before earlier, on the staffing issue. We do have like one in background right now for part-time. She's just looking to help out and have a few hours here and there. But other than that, the jail is doing well. We're sitting around that 26 mark right now. We don't have anyone out. We do have one on EMP, but we don't have anyone outside in another county right now.
Oh,
So we're just trying to, our numbers are a little high right now, but they can sleep on a boat if we have to. But
on,
Patty has a question. Or are you done, Bob?
no,
Go ahead.
can I go?
Oh,
Yeah.
And I'll defer to you when I go.
see, I poked you and now look at you. You're just all happy.
I was in a trance listening. Anyway,
Wow.
on the rec officer,
Yes.
there's a big deal going on now with the lakes with these wake boats.
Okay.
And the state passed some legislation and they expanded the distance, I think. This is what I've been told by our two representatives. They expanded the distance they have to stay away from docks and all that stuff to 300 feet. Living where I live, there's not 600 feet between me and the island. So that's an area that's going to be a real pinch point. And I've been pushing for no wake things, but the town hasn't done anything. As far as the rec officer, are they going to be enforcing this kind of stuff, or is this beyond what they do?
If it's a state law and we will cite or deal with it based under state law or county ordinance,
Okay.
we will not enforce town ordinance.
Not, it wouldn't be town. Yeah. And that's part of the issue. The town doesn't even want to get into doing that kind of stuff. So they don't want to do anything. So that would be a problem. So they would, if we're having problems with that issue.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
All right. I just wanted to understand where we are on that as far as the rec officer.
Well, right now too, and with obviously the ice and what's going on with the snow and stuff, Joel is not doing snowmobile patrol anymore. I was going to give you something more in April. So in April, I can give you an idea of citations through the snowmobile season. But moving forward, right now it's kind of a lull. So we're putting him back on patrol for a short period of time to offset some of the personnel side of things. Over on the A rotation, I think Sean's been alone, but Bobby's been putting on his vest more and he's going out and handling calls. The chief deputy is. And then on the other rotation, I've got Joel and, the lieutenants have been handling calls.
Yeah.
So Joel will help backfill that.
Yeah.
Going back to the wake, I didn't think that passed because there was issues with originally it was, there would be a minimum of like 100 or 150 feet from shore. And then they said that, but it would be up to the municipality to set the distance from shore, but no closer than 150. And that got shot down because then they said, well, we'll just make it 1,000 feet, and my lake's only 2,000 feet wide, so they're not allowed. So then they went back to, I think it was 600 feet max, and then they went 500, and then they went 300. So it's been back and forth. There was an argument of it didn't pass because then they wanted to do a depth issue. And then they said, well, some lakes aren't even that depth. And then what they were worried about was if they said has to be 18 feet deep and 300 or 600 feet from shore, it would then take a ton of lakes off the table and then push, like, say there's 1,000 of these boats. They used to go on 500 lakes, which is 2 per lake. Well, then it would push it down to 3 lakes, which then you'd have 1,000 on 3 lakes. And so the DNR was like, whoa, that's detrimental to those 3 because you'd have a high likelihood of crashes and that it would rip up the whatever. So my understanding is it got not passed and they're still working on it, but that was as of last 2 weeks ago, I heard.
Well, if it didn't pass, what's the status with these boats then?
As always, there was no,
Can just go do their thing.
yep, unless a municipality put a restriction like the no wake. The problem is that they were challenging the no wakes because some municipalities were like, no wake on the whole thing. Well, that took away the rights of those individuals using that. So I'm not in that world. I don't have one of these. I don't watch them, but I know that was a big,
Well, it's a big issue because Wisconsin basically has a lot of lakes, but they're not all very deep.
correct.
And
yeah.
Butternut is one of those. I mean, we've got a 32-foot depth, but it's in one spot on the lake. That's it. And the rest of the lake, like between me and the island, doesn't get any deeper than 10 feet.
Yeah.
And according to what the information we're getting is these boats turn up the bottom and you need 20 feet to not have that be damaging. Well, what's going to happen in 10 feet of water.
Right.
There's going to be silt and everything.
Right. And then they
all
were
over.
worried about the shoreline.
Well, then you're wrecking
Or-
the lake, you
yeah.
got fish habitats, you got all kinds of issues. I would say that would be more important to the state of Wisconsin than having people that buy these big boats go tearing around on these lakes. My opinion.
Welcome to the world of lobby.
Yeah, I know. I know.
But again, I don't want people to have the misunderstanding that it did pass. I may have missed that one going through, but I didn't see it on the Wheeler
See,
report.
I went out of the committee, which surprising. I thought it went through. It hadn't passed though yet at the larger body.
A week and a half ago, I believe it had not.
Yeah,
or
okay,
two,
all right, thank
Whenever I
you.
was in Oshkosh.
Thank you. One more question. On the ordinance, now you've got the stuff in the front here. So I would imagine when we see this in April, this is going to be incorporated into the main body.
These are parts
Because
that,
this is the ordinance the way it is right now. I
Yeah.
think.
it's a draft. It's,
Yeah.
I
that's
had
what it is.
so I've had on the 25th, and I know the sheriff will be out, but there's a few of us meeting with legal to come up with the language on the 25th, so March 25th. I
Okay.
had a pre-conference with the lawyer and just said, here's what we're thinking, start thinking about it in your head. So it's Bryce. Bryce already made the suggestion that it goes in one of our current ones because we have a one line that would work towards it. So we'll expand that one line. So what you guys will see is most likely, and we might change this all at our meeting, but most likely it'll be current ordinance with a bunch of red additions
Yep.
that you guys would see. Then you would have to recommend that to a public hearing. We'd have a public hearing and then it gets approved. So
Okay.
we got several months. But yes, that's the intent is to add a bunch of stuff that would address this household.
Thank you.
Okay.
Patty had a question.
Back to the YouTube people requesting records. Do we know who these YouTube people are and have we watched what they're doing with it?
No, that's the idea of the paperwork and for redaction. It's not our turn. If someone requests a record, we have to fulfill it the best we can. If we don't have the record, we can't. These people do come and we don't watch their content. No, I don't have Annie sit there and watch that stuff. That we can't pay her enough to do some of that stuff. Some of it's just lunacy in a sense too. So, but if someone makes a records request, you have to fulfill it.
Are you satisfied, Patty? Okay, Joel?
So just an informational thing, if I can, Brian. So we talked about the sheriff's department doesn't have the the legal authority to enforce town ordinances. What entity in the state, so for instance, does State Patrol or DNR have the ability to enforce such ordinances? Or is it just a constable of the town to be able to do that? Can you give a little information on that?
So my understanding, and again, I went, 10 years I was village president in Prentice. You'd have to either get your legal corporation counsel involved, or you would ask them to start some sort of forfeiture action based on your ordinance, and then it has to be tried through the court system, which your attorney would be the one. And I can't give you legal advice, I'm giving you suggestions. But again, that's a process that you as a town chair or village president would do, is unless you have a constable, and you would have someone that is certified law enforcement that would be able to enforce your town ordinances based on it. State Patrol will not enforce any towns or municipal ordinances or county. They just strictly State Patrol. And then DNR, their powers have actually been reduced now based on a case law that just came out, I think, last year. So their authority has been reduced quite a bit, actually, as far as like taking on criminal arrests and stuff of that nature. They have to reach out to us now. Yep.
Any other questions for the sheriff? If not, thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, we're down to committee vouchers. I think they've all been around. What's your pleasure on the vouchers?
Motion to approve the vouchers.
Motion by Bob,
I'll second that.
second by Joe. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Question for you, Meredith.
Yeah.
What date is Easter?
April 5th.
5th?
Sounds right to me. Is that what it says?
That's correct.
Yes. Yes, April 5th. March, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next meeting date is April 9th.
Sorry.
Why do we have May 7th on there? That's the date for May right away?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's enough dumb questions for today. At this time, I will adjourn the meeting. We ran out of our agenda.